And we're back. Hey everyone, Verns here, back again with another Supercoach video. It is the NBL Supercoach. We're going to be going over my preferred starting guard options this time around. Now, obviously, if you did just watch the forwards video, I am going to be doing these back to back, so nice and fresh and ready to go. As you can see, I haven't even changed off where I was in the forwards video. Didn't even take a drink, just sort of ended the recording and started it straight back up so that I can easily split these two videos up and get them posted. So for those that did hopefully watch the forward videos, I would recommend watching that, as I do sort of mention to a degree why I don't go over the centers, because I think they're pretty cut and dry. And then on top of that, once again, just how important I guess the fixture is to all this. I guess I'm going to keep reiterating that starting team fixture, way too important to sort of go past. But yeah, we will be jumping into my preferred forward options. We're going into my preferred guard options. Now, look, guards are super, super hard to actually pick here. Crazy. For all those that don't know, Jamal Franklin is no longer with Adelaide. I do not recommend starting him. Chris Smith we did include as a forward, unfortunately, so not going to be showing up in this video. Same with Luke Travers. So those are going to be guys that aren't showing up in this video. Trey Kell didn't unfortunately play in the Blitz, so we don't really have too much for him. Definitely could be an interesting one, though, with how bad Adelaide was. I need to see if... I know he was injured as to why he didn't play, but if he misses the start of the season, then how that affects the team starting, super important. But, yeah, sorry, I'm actually going to just... Give me 1 second. And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Just wanted to quickly address something there. But yeah, just jumping into the guards to just start us off with. So, look, guards was a lot harder to pick from, in my opinion. Lots of forwards are good. We saw a few forwards, obviously, at the guard DVP, so I wouldn't be surprised if people are going to flex some of those forwards down to the guard role. But look, a lot of players that did really well, but I don't know, I feel like there was a lot of moving cogs in the guard sort of side of things, and a few really big underperformances. Shannon Scott had a few bad games. Gary Brownie had like one bad game, then like two good games, and I feel like with Will Cumming coming in, it's really going to affect him. And then Will Cumming came out with honestly not the greatest games himself, so it was hard to honestly look at any of them. Milton Doyle, once again, like out of the 3 games, had one monster game and then 2 not great games. Jalen Adams, this one was really unfortunate. This man had the longest nosebleed in history. Doesn't start the game because he gets a nosebleed, so goes to obviously address that. And then halftime hits, and you see him on the warm-up bike, like after the halftime started. He didn't get into the game to the very end. Was efficient in the minutes he played, but made it very hard to obviously try and pick someone that just missed half a game off a nosebleed. I don't know. That was crazy. Definitely looked good when he was on and when he was playing, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, missed a lot of the preseason, and then that just randomly happening, so we didn't really get to see as much as we wanted. So really disappointing there. But yeah, number 1 guard, we just got to start off with it. It is the most expensive player in the game. It is Bryce Cotton, the MVP. Averaged 40 points a game, 44% ownership. He was very, very good in these games. He had a 53-point game to start off with, and then a 25 and a 33. Now, I guess the only thing to look at here is those were all really nice scores. Put out an average of 37 points. But he is priced at 40. So for him to maintain that price, it's going to be very hard. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see him dropping money early on in the season. And I think this is why it works out really nice doing the Mitch Creek swing to him. Just because they're both so expensive, they have to hold such a high standard to maintain this price. It's, to a degree, unlikely. But at the same time, they were really good, so I wouldn't be surprised either. But I think, yeah, just swinging between him and Mitch Creek, they're super reliable captain options. I think they'll be, these numbers are just significantly higher than anyone else. Like, it's just nuts what he managed to do last year, and wouldn't be surprised to see him hit this average again. But as we know in Supercoach, obviously you have some down weeks, you have some up weeks. usually when you have those down weeks, it really tanks your money. So hopefully he can drop to a little bit of a cheaper value by potentially round 3 when we bring him in for his double. Move Creek onto him, and maybe hopefully he's gone down a little bit in cash then to make, to a degree help us make some money, but just make the trade a lot easier. But yeah, for those that obviously want to be doing that, and then just get the nice reliable captain option out of him. But he does have the starting game. He does have the double up in the starting round. If you did start him, I definitely have no problem with that, considering you get the double, single, double. But then you do hit single, single after that, which is a little bit unfortunate. Honestly, makes you feel like you need to move him on by round 3. So start him off, get 2 great captain weeks out of him. If you're going to start him and Mitch Creek, you're going to, I'd say, probably Captain Bryce round 1, Captain Creek round 2, and then Bryce round 3 again. And then probably moving him on by then, because it's just, you're just paying so much for him, and he's going to have 2 single games. You can probably go down to someone much cheaper who's playing double games. So because of them playing double games, they're probably going to outscore him for those weeks, and then move back to Bryce. So yeah, look, super star of a player, and honestly just I think it's going to be a perfectly fine starting pick, but I do like the yo-yo, as I mentioned, with him and Mitch Creek. And yeah, honestly, if you do start him, you're only really holding him for 3 weeks before moving him on, which definitely may not be a bad thing. You're going to get 2 great captain scores out of him, and he's still going to score a really good score, probably on a single week. So jumping down to our second player. Now, the second one is just, I don't know what to say about this man. He was just on absolute fire to start this off. It is Matthew Dellavedova, because he was just insane in these games. Look, he's priced at 24-ish. He's priced at 22. A little bit cheaper than the imports that came in. That's the word I was looking for in the last video. He put out a 32, 34, and a 23, so a 29 average, so definitely above his average he was performing at. He was shooting the ball with such confidence, he was scoring a lot of points, he was playing big minutes because of it too, and it was just very good. Obviously Ian Clark didn't play basically past the couple of minute mark in game 2, and then didn't play game 3. But, I mean, it almost had a negative effect on Delhi. He went down to 23 in Game 3 without Ian Clark. 34 when I guess Ian Clark didn't really play too much of Game 2. But, yeah, he was just super impressive. And coming off the bench, it feels like they're going through him through offense. It's like you bring in your bench team, and Delhi just becomes the facilitator to score points. He's either making passes, shooting threes, and he's just looking really good. And just, once again, being at that cheaper price tag, only priced at 22, very, very hard to look past him. So Daly just has to be on everyone's radar because of what he put out in this blitz. And if he can bring that into the start of the season, especially with Melbourne's great early season run, 9 games in the first 5 rounds. That's 4 double ups in 5 rounds. That's nuts. So basically, yeah, round 3, 4, and 5 are double ups for him. So that Dellavedova was just too hard to look past. Next, we will be jumping to, I'll just stay with his teammate while we're at it, but I mentioned Ian Clark. I still really like Ian Clark. He was really good in these preseason games. He was really good in game 1 of the Blitz, put out a 28. And then even in this game 2, yeah, he had a 3, but that's because he hit a 3 and then got subbed off in like 2 minutes into the game because he was just like, oh, I've done something. And he's meant to be fine for round 1, they said. That's obviously where the question mark comes in, though. It's a little bit hazy because, hey, he kind of missed the 2 last games of the Blitz. He has a week to get better. It's so unfortunate because he's at this great price tag. He's priced at about 19.5. And in these preseason games, in that first Blitz games, he's looking at like a 25-plus player. He's looking great value. He was so good for them. And then just, unfortunately, this niggle, it just puts a bit of doubt in your mind, like, is he going to come back with the same ferocity we saw previously? What's the chance of him redoing this? It just sucks that we didn't get to see more of him as well. So it's just very unfortunate because this Blitz was played at a higher level. People showed up to this Blitz knowing there's a week left to the season, and they put their best foot forward. It was really good games. Like, it felt like regular season games. Like, this Blitz was a great indicator to look at these players. It's very different, I guess, to the makeshift game they sort of do at the AFL the week before. There's a lot of stuff there that's really just a bit of for the eyes, and it's I forget the word with it, but it's just a bit of fluff. Like, it doesn't actually hold true to the regular season. These games felt like they're going to hold true to the regular season. Not only did we get 3 of them, we got 3 high-intensity games from each team. And honestly, like, I would have loved to have seen him play these other 2 games, but that's why he's on my radar. He's just priced so cheaply. And I think what we saw, he can definitely pump it out. And once again, playing for Melbourne with an unbelievable fixture early, it's very hard to look past him. I do think if you did look past him on round 1, I wouldn't be surprised by the end of round 2 when he's played 3 games and he's coming into 3 weeks of doubles, you're bringing him in because he ended up being great in these first 3 games. You didn't really want to bring him in for a single game, but then you're going to bring him in after round 2 for the triple doubles in a row, which, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that ends up happening. And once again, just a cheap price tag. It makes life so much easier to fit around the rest of your team. So very, very unfortunate that had happened. So the next 2 players I'll jump to are a bit more speculative, in my opinion. Like, they were good, but there was factors to it that need to be taken into account, and they're actually right next to each other. We're going to jump on the only Tasmanian player that I've got here, Jordan Crawford. He honestly looked really good in his games. I was pretty happy with his games. He showed up, played that great point guard role. Tasmania looked like a really good team. Dropped to 23 in game 1. Pretty nice. I mean, he's priced at 24, so sort of did what he needed. Dropped to 36 in game 2, and I was like, oh man, this he's looking good. It's hard to... I don't really want to start Tassie players, but like, it's hard to not. And then game 3 rolled around, and I just don't... I say I don't really know what happened, but I think it was the Milton Doyle show at the end of the day. He just went sort of nuts in that game, and Jordan Crawford ended up with a 7. He just didn't get much on the stat sheet at the end of the day. Ended up being a competitive game with Adelaide, which hasn't really been the case, and if anything, as we mentioned, obviously they let go of Franklin. They changed up the roster a little bit. Well, I guess not the roster. They changed up the rotation, so then Detch ended up playing a lot of minutes and started and just, I guess, was just a bit safer with the ball. He's also a bit taller, I feel Detch was, so he was also just, Crawford's definitely one of the smaller players in the league, so maybe a bit harder there, but yeah, that 7 just made everything iffy. It put him for an average of 22 over the blitz, and they get an average of 22 when you put out a 7, that's pretty nice. Like, it's basically at his price tag, but it is very scary going to the season. I know, does he have the capability to do that? Does he have the capability to randomly just drop a 7? You pick him up for these first 8 games, has a great double game, has another double game set up, and you're like, oh, maybe I make him captain because there's not really other good captain options. And he just comes out with a random 7 in back-to-back games, and you just sit there like, what happened? I don't know, that's super scary to see someone do that because he still played minutes, and as I said, they definitely put their best foot forward, so it just didn't really happen for him there, so super scary. And then the only Sydney player on this list, we're putting in a Valentine. Now, Valentine's scary in the sense that because of what's happening with Adams here, once he comes onto the field, how does that affect Valentine? You bring in the MVP from 2 seasons ago, super good player, and it's going to change up the rotation because Valentine came through game 1, put down a 32, and you're like, okay, this guy, he shoots the ball quite good. And then he comes out with an 18 and a 21, and nothing spectacular from that. But as I said, forwards, I don't know, just every forward seemed to have something with them that I didn't really like a lot. And I guess the question is, when Adams comes in, will that be a positive inflict to Valentine? Because all of a sudden, he's pushed up, in the rotation, just in the sense that he's playing a bigger on the floor because Adams is doing the main guard role. Not that Valentine was doing the main guard role. I think Bruce was doing it for him instead. But I don't know, maybe having a better point guard at the helm might naturally help increase his scoring output or his gameplay, and it could potentially be a bit of upside there. But look, he's priced at 24. I wouldn't jump onto him personally, but out of the options that were jumping out to me, I didn't see anything that I really liked that wasn't technically a forward guard. Patrick Miller was great, but plays for Cairns, so we're not picking him up. Same with Jason Cartwright. He was really good in his games too, but we're not picking him up playing for New Zealand. Goulding was really nothing in game 1 and then had 2 good games after that, and he is at the older end of his season, so it's hard to pick that up. Cameron was really bad in 2 games, then really good in 1 game. And once again, Trey Kell is someone who's like, I wish we could have seen him because we would have loved to have started an Adelaide player with their double back-to-back like double doubles to start the season. So really unfortunate we couldn't see him. So yeah, I mean, look, the list a little bit choppy because of this. I do think I was happy with sort of the first four I put out with Crawford in there. But yeah, guards were definitely harder to pick from when looking at these premiums. And I do think that's why Delly and Clark have really jumped out to me, just because they're playing for one, a great fixture team early. But then on top of it, they're a little bit cheaper, and they were definitely performing above that when we saw them. So obviously a bit easier to perform above a cheaper price tag. But I mean, there's a reason they have a cheaper price tag, because clearly they haven't previously. But yeah, we'll jump into the rookies here. We'll see what we can find here, and this is another area where I sort of struggled a bit. Once again, we have some players that have this like forward guard hybrid that I don't know if you technically consider a forward, maybe. Sean Bruce, no, would not be picking him up. Just think that he did play more because of obviously Adams not really playing much. McDonald, I think, was nice in his games, but not nice enough, and playing for Taz, we wanted better fixtures. I guess the number one that I guess jumps out for me was Ben Air. He was really, really good in my opinion. Ben Air was priced at 9, so pretty cheap. Put out a 13, 24, and 17. Now, I understand Mitch Creek didn't play 2 of those games to start with, but even when he did play, I mean, Ben Air put out a 17 in that last game, and I think he just looks good. I think he's come over to Melbourne, he's playing in his home state again, and he's just clearly comfortable, and he's just getting more minutes, and he's just looking better with those minutes. So I think he's going to be looking towards, once again, that 13 to 15 average while being priced at 9, which is very nice for him. Definitely a bit more of an inflated price tag over that 100K mark, but just someone that was really, I think, will play above that price tag. So unfortunately, you have to obviously sacrifice a bit of money to start him because of it. The second one is Isaac White. I think I called him Ian White throughout my whole last video. I'm so sorry about that. Not my bad. But Isaac White, look, in reality, these games were almost a little bit disappointing for what we saw in the preseason. His preseason games before the Blitz were insanely good, and it was impossible to look past this guy. We come into the Blitz, and look, he puts out a 17, 12, and 16, about a 15 average, but he is priced at only 7.5. So he's still definitely putting out over that. And once again, someone I wouldn't be surprised to be around this 13 to 15 sort of average, but priced down at 7.5. So I think an absolute gem of a pick to be starting off with in your team. And then number 3 is Michael Harris, who was really good. As I mentioned, he has an inflated average because of this Adelaide game where they just got all these minutes because they kind of just pumped Adelaide. But he did put out a 9, a 26, and a 16. He is priced at 6.5, so nice and cheap. That 9 at the end of the day wouldn't be the end of the world because of his price tag. But then a 26 and a 16, that's pretty nice. I would expect maybe him to be pushing towards that 11, 13 average, but priced at 6.5. It's pretty nice, and he is at a cheap price, which allows more flexibility for you to be able to get players in elsewhere. So very nice from there. And I guess the only other one that I really had on my list originally, but then someone I actually got rid of because I just didn't like what he was. I just didn't think it was enough, was Flynn Cameron. I don't even have his numbers here because I actually got rid of him from my list, but he was at least playing some good minutes. I feel like he was coming off the bench, putting in about 15 minutes on the field. Output wasn't crazy high. I think he was getting like 9s for his average as well. He was put out like a 7, then like a 12, and then like an 11. Then again, he's only priced at 6. So even with that, he's playing above his price tag. And I think if you need someone that's sort of this baseline rookie option, I guess no one that's 58K, I just don't think those guys actually play. So 69K, baseline rookie option. You already put Hemshaw in your forward line. I think Flynn would be the next best option there. As I said, Taron Armstrong, insanely good pick. Going to be a great player. He's starting for Cairns, and he's going to make crazy money. But to do one game, then a double, then have a bye for 2 weeks before coming back for like 7 doubles in a row, we're going to focus on him after he gets back from the bye. So yes, we don't get him at that cheaper price tag because we can't have someone sitting on our bench for 2 weeks. What are we going to do? We're going to bring him in, trade him out after round 2 for one of these other rookies, probably at that price, he's probably going to have to go for like a Flynn Cameron. So what you basically accepting at this point that you're going to bring in Armstrong, move in the Flynn Cameron, and then run Flynn Cameron for 2 weeks before going back to Armstrong. Like, I'm just not really a fan of that. That just doesn't seem like it. He's going to be a great pick. I think that's probably the best case scenario. You'd be doing something like that because Flynn Cameron technically has 2 doubles before Armstrong gets back. So both play 3 games. Then you move down the Flynn, get 4 games out of him, then go back to Armstrong. Could definitely be an option, but as I mentioned, just someone like, well, you could just do that with someone like Kieran Galloway in your forward, who's going to play more games as well. Flip him there and work it that way. But yeah, Cameron, I guess, as I said, is a last resort pick. Somebody I had on my list because he was playing, and he did have one game that I thought was pretty impressive, but it just overall just didn't quite hit the mark, unfortunately. But yeah, that's going to be my preferred forwards overall. Look, as I said, a bit of a harder list to go through because there were so many question marks and all these guys with the inflated price tags just kept having really off games here and there, which made it hard to go for them. Or they were coming back from injury, or they just randomly getting blood noses. I don't know. As I mentioned, Franklin did get dropped as well, so somebody that needs to be completely ignored. But yeah, we'll go over that list again. So for the premiums, we went through Bryce Cotton, Crawford from Tasmania. I forgot his first name. I'm going to jump down to him real quick. Where was it? Crawford. You were here, Jordan Crawford. Then we had Denzel Valentine. We had Della Vedova, and we had Ian Clark as our 3 sort of on-field options. Sorry, our 5 on-field options. 2 of them that you'd obviously pick. And then out of the 4 rookies, we see them right here: Ben Air, Ian White, and Isaac White. Why do I keep calling him Ian? Harris, Michael Harris specifically, and then Flynn Cameron. So yeah, they're my preferred guard options. As I said, it's a little bit more iffy there, and I think there's a lot more room for you guys to probably play around with that. Or even, as I mentioned, moving people like Traveller from the forward line down into the, honestly, into this premium section down here. That could work out. Or, as I mentioned, I included, obviously, Henshaw up in the forwards, but somebody else that could be included down in the guards as well, depending on your structure. But yeah, that'll be it for this one. We will jump into probably another video soon. We'll probably get this one out, as I mentioned, midnight tonight. So yeah, anyway, thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Really appreciate it. I'll try and not ramble too much in these videos, that we know I just can't help it. So I appreciate all you for watching, sticking to the end, and subscribing. So peace, later.